Good morning, good afternoon, evening, depending on from where you have joined in. I am Priya Patra. I am the Vice President Outreach of PMI Mumbai chapter, and I'm the host for this session today. And we also have Pierre, our chapter leader from South Africa. Pierre, would you want to say hi to everyone?
Everyone, is Pierre from PMI South Africa. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone. We do also have Brushank and Sharon. Brushank, please say hi to everyone. All right. We are having a little problem hearing you, Prashant, but we do know that you said hi and welcome to everyone. And we also have Damike, who is our creative and social media champion on the call today. Damike, please say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone, Dhammika Mendis joining from Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Damike. And our most amazing moderator of this event, Sharon Hyde from New Zealand. Sharon, please say hi to everyone. Sharon, are you speaking on mute? We are not able to hear you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. And how is it feeling now at 2 a.m. New Zealand time?
I'm very good. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. So, Pierre, over to you.
So thanks a lot and welcome again, everyone. Today is our PMI Chapter Exchange Season 2 and Event number 4, and we will be discussing women in project management. So we also have our friends and collaborators from all around the world, from PMI chapters Indonesia, Gujarat, Zimbabwe, New Zealand, Phoenix, Czech Republic, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, South Florida, United Kingdom, Lima, Peru, and our newest members are PMI Sao Paulo and Southern Alberta chapter, with also PMI Kenya. And our supporting chapters are PMI Ghana, PMI Greece, and PMI Poland. Please make use of the chat window to let us know where you guys are joining from. We would like to know that. And also, Damike, please, can you send the Menti code for people? Please make use of this Menti code to let us know where you guys are joining from. Today we have 555 registrations from 42 countries, which is really good. So, as a way to keep the session smooth, please be aware that this meeting is being recorded. So if you are uncomfortable in any way with that, you may choose not to attend. Otherwise, you are free to continue in this way. Also, please make sure that your mic is on mute during the session and that your noise-making devices are put on silent mode. Also, I must precise that everyone here is speaking at the individual capacity. Our views do not represent our organization's views in any way. So, Priya, over to you now.
Thank you, Pierre. So it is time to introduce our special guest, Ricardo Jenna. He is the Managing Director of PMI Latin America. He's PMI Fellow, PMI Past Chair, Speaker on Interpersonal Skills and Project Management. He has 20 years of experience in private and public development sector, implementing program and project management. And of course, he's recognized as an international speaker on leadership, strategic alignment, and project management. So with this, I hand over the stage to you, Ricardo, to walk us through your thoughts on PMI Chapter Exchange, PMI 4.0 strategy, and the topic of the day today.
Thank you so much. Okay, I really appreciate the invitation and being here. I am really glad to see you here, and I am also glad to be in the stage with Lee, also PMI fellow, and with all of you, because it's interesting to see the exchange and the collaboration with chapters, okay? And chapters that are really close to my heart. South Florida, because I live here in South Florida. So this was actually the first chapter that I ever joined. I was president of the South Florida chapter, and see the Sao Paulo chapter or the Lima chapter, because those are chapters that are my chapters. I am working with them, and I'm a member of those chapters. I'm a member also of the United Kingdom, and I visited some of these chapters when I was chairman of the board, okay? Poland, UK, etc. So my name is Ricardo Jenna. I'm originally from Colombia. I'm also a Mexican citizen. I live in Miami, and I have been a volunteer with PMI since 2005, working with PMI and PMI standards since 1997, and working as PMI Managing Director in the region of Latin America since last year, which means that I have the responsibility of managing Latin America as a region. Last year, we decided that we were going to be working regionally, meaning that we had to be focused on the customer and the stakeholders of the region, meaning that I have to pay attention to what you need as an individual, as a member, but I also have to pay attention to the universities, to the organizations, to the government, because we need to understand that we are different. We are professionals, the universities, the academia, the government, etc., but they have different needs. So I need to understand what are their needs, and I need to just ensure that we regionalize this. So this is an interesting shift in how PMI operates. And that takes me to the point of PMI 4.0. PMI 4.0 is not something that we are implementing right now. It's just the strategic vision of where we are going to. Is right now, when we say we are implementing the PMI strategic vision that you saw in 2017, but we say we are moving forward to PMI 4.0 to what we say like a strategic leap, okay? It's something that it's really something different. And we talk about this like if we continue doing the same with the same people, we are not going to have the impact that we should have. So we need to just expand this. We need to just go, as I say in my Latin culture, we need to go outside the church, okay? Outside the temple, okay? We need to just reach out to other people. And that's essentially what we say, we need to go for the change makers. You know this. It's like the people that really do projects are not only the project managers, is the people that it's purchasing the things, is the designer, is the marketing campaign manager, is the guy that is doing the portfolio management. It's everyone, okay? So if we don't involve them, if we don't involve the executives, if we don't involve the students, etc., we can do anything. We can actually teach project management. We can do any planning, Scrum. We can do all the retrospective, and we are not going to be successful. So we need to just reach out to them and ensure that they have the skills and understand how to be successful, okay? I don't want them to be a project manager. I don't want them to know about agility. I don't want them to become a member of PMI. If they find that there is something here that it's going to be helping them in their journey, then I think that it's going to be useful for them. And then I think that it would be great to have them in here in the community. But I want them to just find something in here. So my intention with PMI 4.0 is to have a set of products and services for the change makers and see if something is going to be helping them in the journey for supporting their career. And if I have something for them, then maybe they are going to be successful in their projects. And maybe we are going to have a better impact, a huge impact in the organizations and in the economy, in this project economy. With that in mind, we say we don't lose the focus in the project managers, of course. We continue with our core products, but we expand this. So we saw that we started to say, we have the PMP, we have the CAPM, we have the ACP, all these products that we always have, okay? We have the standards, we continue doing the research, but we started to just say, what if we create something, for example, for the people that don't know anything about project management, kickoff. Okay, so it's a product that it's a 45 minutes course on just teaching you the basics of project management. So let's create kickoff. Simple, okay? It's outside the bubble. Or what if we teach how to solve the problem for people that it's solving problems in a creative way with design thinking, okay? It's not really about project management, but maybe it's gonna be helping project managers or people that it's just not project managers, okay? They are like doing projects, but they don't know that they are projects. So what if we create a course that it's wicked problem solving? What if we help people that they are just doing applications really easy and they don't know that they are projects, okay? They don't care about the Scrums, Agile or so it's low code, no code. So we create this citizen developer framework. So to ensure that they understand that even if you don't call this a project, it has to have a framework for projects. That's citizen developer. What if we teach executives that even if they are looking at a strategy or transformation, they need to connect this to the rest of the organization, and that's organizational transformation. So we are trying to just expand this and say somehow you need to connect all the different people around the concept of being successful at projects. And that's our intention, is just to say, we don't lose the focus of project management, but we need to just go outside the bubble and connect people. And something that for me was really a game changer was the fact that we say, until now, we were always looking at PMIF as something different, no? Like, we have this different organization that is the PMI Educational Foundation for helping others and for helping children and etc. Now it's really connected to PMI. It's like we say, we need to reach out from 5 to 75, okay? So we need to say it's from 5 years to 75 years. And this is just a number, okay? But it's to say, we need to be working with children. And we need to be working with children from the 5 years until the 75 years. I mean, from the moment that they start just working together in a project until the moment that they are really a mentor. It doesn't mean that 75 years is really a mentor. It's more like the moment that they are just managing transformation. And this is PMIF, PMI, and Brightline, this organization that we created with others. So if we tie everything, then we have a better opportunity to be working with others. And PMIF, it's helping us to just be working with children from 5 years to 19. PMI, the core of PMI is working with students, entrepreneurs, and professionals. And Brightline is helping us to be working with executives and mentors that are working with transformation. And everything is PMI. We are not 3 different organizations. And I think that that's essentially the core of the change makers that we are just talking. It's not that different thing of project managers. I'm sorry, I'm Colombian, I need coffee, okay? And then the essential thing that we need to remember about PMI 4.0 is we need to be just going outside the bubble. We cannot continue just saying project management with project managers about project management and etc. because then this is going to be the same, and you know it. The statistics for the last years are going to be the same. It's like we have been talking about what's the percentage of wasted money in projects. It's 9% one year, 10% the other year, 9% the last year. So it doesn't change, okay? So we need to just do something different. And for me, the fact that we are doing this exchange, the fact that we are working as a region, the fact that sometimes we do these initiatives like diversity, inclusion, we talk about communities of practice, that we talk about how to just reach out to construction because we have similar problems, that we, for example, in the region, we are doing something called Change Makers Initiative. We have events focused on agility. Now, for example, we have an event in July focused on social government and social projects. If we start working together with people that normally we don't reach out to them, why not, okay? We need to just be sure that we talk about similar issues, We reach out when we say diversity and say it's not only about the race, it's about the problems that we face together, that we reach out and create that sense of community. Community makes us stronger. And that's what we need to just be doing right now, because life is difficult, but life is beautiful, and we can make it if we are together on this. And it's also really important for me to ensure that we understand that it's about the generations. It's like we need to just be working with the youth, not only with the diversity in industries. We have something really interesting, at least in Latin America and in several regions. We have this gap between the people that it's really old, as me, you know, I'm like 50 or so, and then you have this youth generation. It's not really about teaching them, it's about really working with them, because this youth generation, they are like 20 years old, but some of them already have a company, they are already entrepreneurs. They can teach me, okay? I am not going to be teaching them. So it's more working with them. I think that that's essentially the point. It's working outside the bubble, working with other industries, working with the youth generation. And my message is like, continue doing this. Just really pay attention to PMI 4.0, because it's not only a message of saying, it's new product. It's not new products. It's a mindset. It's the mindset of go outside the bubble, reach out to other people, reach out to the youth, really put this into practice, continue doing this, because the more that we do this, the more impact that we are going to be creating. Tonight, for example, we are going to be doing something. We are, you know, this in India, in Africa, in Latin America, we are really impacted by COVID. And tonight I have an event with youth generation in Brazil. And we say how to support COVID. And we are going to be doing something that it's a reality show. Not we are supporting that. It's a reality show for influencers to influence about how to prevent COVID. I never thought that that was actually something that I could be supporting, because in my mind, old mind, I never thought that it could be something to support COVID prevention. But your generation really did that. Influencers working to prevent COVID, okay? It's a reality show. Let's do it, okay? We, PMI, is supporting this thing. Why not, okay? So we need to be working on reaching out to other people. Let's do it, okay? Thank you so much. Have a great event. And thank you, Priya, and thank you to everyone. And have a great discussion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ricardo. I really like the fact that you said that go outside the bubble, reach out to everyone, build a community and support each other. And this is the time that we need to do. I remember many years ago, I went to PMI Global Conference in Florida, and there was a blackboard, and where we had to write, why did I become a project manager? And I said, because I manage projects all the time at home with my kids. It's a project, right? To give them good ways of working, good ways of learning. It's a project for me. So project managers, they are there everywhere. The fact that we are reaching out from 5 to 75 is just strengthening our skills in project management. Thank you, Ricardo, for your words of wisdom, and really appreciate your time. With this, virtual applause for Ricardo for his time and, his words of wisdom. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the next part of our segment, which is a little, the same thing that I always talk about. What is PMI Chapter Exchange? And as you all know, PMI Chapter Exchange is nothing, but it's just an initiative to bring about cross-chapter collaboration and to encourage cultural diversity. And today, I'm proud to say we have 19 chapters who have joined us on this journey. And we have many more supporting chapters also on the way. And it is all about teamwork. And we have seen this through our events, we've also started launching Inside Exchange Nuggets. So this is nothing but key takeaways from the events that we do. And we've already launched 3 of them. And Pedro, our chapter leader from Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is helping us with that. And I would request people, everyone, to keep an eye on that, go through that, because it's really words of wisdom and nuggets and of cultural ways of thinking on a single topic. So that's something that we have been doing. We are also building a community. While we create these nuggets as well as events, we are building a community where we are sharing good practices within the program. And of course, we are also approached by people outside the program asking, how are you doing this? We are sharing our thoughts and our experience. And we are growing. We grew not only in numbers, but in our sphere of influence through diversity, inclusion, and equity of thoughts. And as Pierre said, right, we have 577 registrations across 42 countries. So that, kind of helps us to understand that we are able to reach out to a large audience right now, because we truly believe diverse connections is going to lead us to innovative solutions. And it's my pleasure right now to welcome Jean, Jean, if I am pronouncing your name all right, the president of PMI Kenya chapter. And Kenya is our incoming chapter for this month. And hence, we have invited Jean to come and talk about the chapter and her thoughts about this program. Jean is an experienced consultant, practitioner, facilitator, and certification trainer in all facets of project management, project program, and portfolio management. She is the director and principal consultant of Global Protocol Solution, and she is definitely very active, and she is the president of PMI Kenya chapter. With this, Jean, I hand over the stage to you to let us know more about your chapter and initiatives and about why you chose to join this program.
Thanks, Priya. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, very good. Let me just say thank you very much for inviting me to be on this forum, and also for inviting the chapter to be part of the Collaboration Exchange program. So let me just quickly do an introduction about who the PMI Kenya chapter is. For us, we are a chapter that was started in 2012. We consider ourselves one of the most active chapters in Africa. We have about, at the peak of our membership, we had about 460 members. We have a high membership satisfaction rate, as you can see there, and about 54% of our members are credentialed. And because the topic today is women in projects, I would just like to say that about almost just over 40% of our members in the PMI Kenya chapter are female. And that is good because if you look at some of the statistics that are out there, or the latest statistics that we have seen, about 30% of women, project leaders are women. So us at 40% is, I would say that we are doing quite well. And then we have, of our memberships, we've got quite a few who are also volunteering, and we've had quite a bit of growth in that past year, especially because of the PMP initiative, which has really strengthened our membership. And more people are beginning to get interested in what is this PMI and trying to get their certification. So I'm really glad that we can be able to see growth in our chapter. And we've got a couple of special interest groups, including Women in Projects, which is one of them. We launched this last year, and I'm so glad that this month, which has been recognizing women, has also recognized, it was the month that we launched Women in Projects in the chapter. And Lee, who is one of the speakers, was actually one of the guys who came in and was part of that launch. So I'm excited that we're having a one year celebration in effect about what you're doing with women. And so we have a lot of other SIGs like Agile and the Growth Environment. So basically that's a little bit about the Kenya chapter. Okay, we can move on to the next one. This is just maybe one of a couple of areas that you can see where we've been positively engaged. The Youth Quake, we were winners. The Youth Quake put us on the global map with PMI. We won, one of our members, Angela, won in this particular category, and we have a very active PMIF liaison led by Janet. As part of our plans in PMI Kenya chapter is to advance, part of our growth is trying to build our strategic partnerships, collaborations. And so you can see there, we had our very first East Africa Community States collaboration in last year in November when we were celebrating the International Project Management Day. And we had Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda as part of that. And us being now in this 18-member chapter collaboration is excellent because our aim is actually to broaden our perspectives, increase our networks, try to see what else is happening out there. Because if we are very much internal, then we won't be able to expand our thinking. And we won't be able to also reach the heights that we're trying to get to in terms of thinking, mindsets, learning new ways of doing things, understanding the new best practices and standards and so on. So this has been a very exciting journey for us. And the PMI Kenya chapter has been, as you can see, we've got a couple of awards. We're still growing. We know that there's some chapters who've been getting awards for the 1,500 club memberships, but it's okay. We're still on this path of of achieving. So we are grateful and we are happy and thank you so much that we are being, the spotlight is on Kenya this year. In this particular event, and we would just welcome a lot of you to come in and see our beautiful country. So asanteni sana, which is thank you in Kenya, and look forward to this particular to the discussion ahead. Thanks, Priya.
Definitely, Jean. As soon as the borders open up, I will try to apply for a conference in Kenya so I can visit you. So yes, thank you very much. That was an amazing journey. And with this, I hand over this event to Sharon, our session moderator. She is the general manager of PMI New Zealand, extremely active and awake at 2:30 a.m. in the night. I am looking forward to, get some amount of energy from her as well. She is a skilled and an inclusive leader specializing in building remote teams. Awesome. She specializes in streamlining operations globally, creating an efficient, consistent, and cost-effective way of operating. She loves change. That is even more exciting. And she's a skilled change manager. She's most proud of transitioning a global team who were in regional silos to a successfully remote team. Sharon, with this, I hand over the session to you, and please take it away.
Thank you, Priya, and kia ora, everyone. It's hello from New Zealand. I don't know why you're relying on me at 2 o'clock in the morning to bring the energy, but I shall do my best because I'm excited to be here. Women in project management is one of my special interest areas in our role here in New Zealand. We have a monthly networking forum, and I think it's so important to build on that community and share our experiences, and I'm sure we will come across many things to celebrate in our discussion today, but also many common areas across the globe. So I'd like to hand straight back over to Jean, who, although you've already heard from us, is also one of our specialist panelists. And I want to start off, we've already had a bit of an introduction about you, but I'd like to ask you the first question, really, which is, as a woman in a leadership role, why do you think women leaders are core to future fit enterprises? And you just unmute, we'll just unmute you.
Hi, Sharon. I'm feeling like I'm in your 2 a.m. Time zone. Okay, so say your question again, I'm sorry.
No problem. So I thought, as a woman in a leadership role, why do you think women leaders are core to future fit enterprises?
Wow, sometimes being the first one to answer a question, you don't know how much depth and breadth that you should add to it. But I think what I would say is that women have got, they have a lot of the profile. If you understand the profile of a woman or a female leader, they bring a lot to the table in terms of a lot of introspection for one, and they also have a lot of vision, and they have a lot of strength and courage that they're able to bring in a lot of teams together. So when we are looking at enterprises or organizations that are trying to look at, hey, how forward-looking or what kind of vision where do we need to go in the future? Most likely you will find a woman who will be able to come in with a different mindset or come in with new ideas. And this is because, number one, she also comes in with a lot of, women leaders, although it doesn't mean that, for us, we're coming in with, there's any difference between a male and a woman. But I think as a woman, we come in with a mindset of humanity, where we're looking at people and we're bringing them in together and trying to get the best out of them. We also have a sense of conquering fear, where we can go into an unknown. We're not necessarily high risk takers, but again, we're also not risk averse. And so going in and trying to start something afresh in a future fit kind of enterprise, I think would be a really good fit for a lot of the women, because they're able to harness those teams and also be able to build a vision from a strategic perspective that a lot of people can understand. Probably the people aspect of it, Sharon, would be the area where women's strength is the best, where they're able to get the best out of everybody, and then lead them to where they're supposed to, where the organization is trying to get to.
Oh, absolutely, that's great. Thank you so much for being our first panelist to answer our question, and we'll go through and meet some of our other panelists now. So we'll go over to Liz, who is joining us from the Netherlands. Liz, I'd really like you to share a little bit about yourself, and then go on to answer the question, what expectations do you think are placed on women in leadership roles?
Thank you, Sharon. Hello, everyone. Lovely to be here. I have the beautiful joy of being a director of the PMI and NEL chapter, the Netherlands chapter. And in my role, I'm focused on academic outreach and education foundation. My personal focus is on universities. And also, as part of the work we do with the universities, we do training. We tell them about the power of project management, how it's a life skill, which is one of my personal mantras. But another point I talk about is the fact that we need to get project management researchers to the fore, their ideas brought forward. And from that perspective, we need to challenge our members to take in information about what's happening in the marketplace that these researchers are finding right away. And we have an annual event called the Zoekies, which is the short for the Dutch word onderzoek, which means research. And this year, great to say, we had 5 winners, all women, in the category of master's program, business innovation, and undergrad. So I'm very busy with that. And part of that leads into the issue that I am the advocate from our board for the women's network we have here in the Netherlands. And while we don't have the kind of numbers that Kenya has, and I think that's fantastic to share, thank you. It's really inspirational, Janine. But we'd like to aspire to get there. As part of answering the question about leadership in terms of what kinds of expectations are placed on women leaders, well, a lot. And one of the biggest expectations I think we run into is the fact that we bring something different, which we often do, but that difference can be something different than my colleagues think. I've been on a lot of boards and leadership at IBM, for instance, where I worked for 15 years and actually ran diversity, where in those groups where I was the only woman in the room, a lot of them thought I was the nice one. And that meant I wasn't the high performing one. So what's that all about? Well, it's about limiting our power. It's about putting us into a box and saying, women are only this one way. We represent half the population. We are not only one way. So I would say that the biggest challenge is to break through the biases and bring your own voice to the table. I love this one saying from Diana Ross that said, have role models, but you be you. You make your own way, and women have to do that in every board situation.
Yes, absolutely. We should make sure we put that on one of the social media posts as one of the quotes of the day. Thank you for sharing that with us, Liz. That's fantastic. And we'll hear more about what you're doing in the Netherlands in your network as we move through the event today. We'll go on now, though, and we'll meet another one of our panelists, Diana, who's joining us from Peru. So welcome. And if you could again take some time to introduce yourself and then go on and tell us about what structure, policies and metrics do you think could help women move into and succeed in leadership roles?
Hi everyone. Well, for me, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Diana Balboa. I'm Director of Professional Development in PMI Lima chapter. And I work with many university students. In Peru, we have many communities that now have like events. Events have also small projects in order to incorporate in their practice and in their studies some project management principles, and also to develop, also to improve their abilities since they are in the universities. In the chapter, we also develop some activities related with showing success cases from men and women, try to balance that, right? So we try to have also some professionals from different industry to show that project management it's used not only in the maybe the usually industries like construction, IT, also from other industries in order to involve more students since they are in the university, because a very important way of learning is by modeling, right? So if they show themselves represented by someone that already have success in their careers, also they could just have some aspirations that to become a leader someday. Well, answering the questions with the policies and also metrics, first of all, I think that it is important to consider what spaces we are preparing for women, right? Because maybe in companies or also in organizations we can establish some policies, but also we have to work in beliefs, right? I always use the term auto-efficacy, because auto-efficacy is how the beliefs that you have that you can really do what you want, that you can make real the aspirations that you have, right? So sometimes the mentoring programs that could be just established are good, they're going to benefit women in order to maybe to get confidence in also taking advantage of the spaces, of the opportunities, because sometimes that is the problem, right? Not only to have the maybe to have the spaces or to give them opportunities, also the women need to apply for them, need to have the courage to apply for them, right? And in metrics, well, we have the statistics that are related with not only salary, because until now we have the high difference in salaries, but also in the percentage. If we analyze data related with people in managerial positions, and the managerial positions start increasing, we see that the percentage of women start decreasing, and in the top levels, we see the percentage that is 2%, 3%. We have in Latin America, those percentages are very high, right? All in the top level positions, we have just 3-5% of women, right? 95% is with men position. Men are in charge of those positions, right? So those are the metrics that I consider that should be analyzed, because sometimes people don't analyze those things, right? If they don't analyze those data that give you information in order to take decisions, that something should be implemented in organizations, and also some activities that we develop. For example, when I start leading some projects in the chapter, I realized that the percentage, for example, in Peru, the percentage of people that apply to volunteer activities, men continues applying more than women, right? Because women have extra activities, so they don't have enough time for maybe to applying for volunteer activities, and in that way also they don't have network opportunities. Network opportunities are going to also increase the probabilities to apply or to know that there are some opportunities, right? Thanks, Sharina.
Yeah. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Diana. And it's really interesting you talk about women applying for jobs. It's one of the topics that we discussed in our network here in New Zealand recently. And we had a major power company talk about how they've changed their recruitment practices to really make sure they always interview a female applicant if there is one. And they found by making sure they added females to the interview process, then they started employing them. Getting to the interview stage was really difficult. So they changed their policy to make sure they always added female applicants to the interviews. And then that led to some really highly skilled people being employed. So there's so much that we can do. So thank you for sharing. And now I would really like to move on to our fourth and final panelist for the evening, who is joining us from the States. I'd like to introduce you to Lee, who's a very experienced practitioner, and so great to have a male panelist. So Lee, again, if you could introduce yourself, and then I would really like you to answer the question, do you think women are expected to engage certain mindsets more so than men?
Oh, thank you for that introduction. What you meant to say was I'm really old. I like the experienced idea, but it's an age thing. I'm in the business 54 years. Okay, I started in 1966. And I've seen it evolve. And one of the biggest lessons I learned came from my wife of 54 years, who is a very aggressive, well-organized person who chose to spend her life as a mother and parent, but she carried all the characteristics of what we need in the workplace today. And I think until 1984, when we created the PMP process, we never really recognized that women were players in this business of project management. They managed the home, they managed the children, they managed schedules for youth sports and so on, which is just another form of a project, but we never really gave them the credibility, nor did some of them want to proceed into that field. We've tested our first group in 84. 55 people sat for the PMP exam the first time, and only 7 of them were women. So you can see the ratio was pretty substantially for men. I got introduced to some real, what I call aggressive. When men are aggressive, they're hard chargers. When women are aggressive, there's another word we call them. And so you have to realize that the perception of men versus women in project management was not all that good in the 70s and 80s and even into the early 90s. I had a chance to work with IBM when Lou Gerstner came in to turn that company around, and he put in place a young lady named Carol Wright, who was responsible for the implementation of an enterprise project management system. And I learned more from Carol Wright, I think, than I'd learned in 20 years prior to that. She was organized, she was efficient, she was a leader, she knew where she needed to go. And so what I see that the mindset that the women have, I think is, I mean, I'm biased here. I hire women, I promote women, I mentor women, because I think they have a lot to offer, and I don't have to fight some of the personality issues that you run into with men oftentimes. I think that one of their strengths, from what I've seen, is their ability to multitask. I've never seen men have the ability to do 3, 4, 5 things at a time and do them all well. Some men have a hard time focusing on one. And so I think the multitasking is one thing that people have to understand. When I hire a woman for a job, I'm getting more than one woman. I can tell you that right now. I'm getting multiple people that can do multiple things at the same time. The only issue that I've seen occur, which I think we're fighting that stereotype now, is the emotional issue. Men tend to feel, oh, well, women are too emotional. They can't handle difficult situations. They can't deal with the risks associated with project management. That's just a diversionary tactic. I've seen men do this, maybe not cry, like, although I have on occasion, but women are very introspective. I think they intuitively know things that need to be done, where men sometimes have to really wrestle with that to figure out what it is that needs to be done. So I think it's important. The other mindset that I think women have to deal with a little bit more than they have is their ability to think strategically. I think they need to not over focus on the short term, but recognize there's a long-term game that we're trying to play in this business of project management. And as I heard Ricardo talking about this 4.0, I'm excited. My view has been for an awfully long time, everything is a project, and therefore everyone is a project manager. And so as we move out of this idea that I have to be called a project manager to capitalize on the skills and tools and techniques of project management is facetious. It doesn't make sense. I don't care what you call me. I want to do things effectively. I want to be organized. I want to lead people. The idea of servant leadership, boy, has that day come. I think if we can understand that our role as a leader is not to build our own situation, but to enable people to do that are working with and for me. So I think women bring a great mindset to that. I with pride say that if I had to hire 100 people for project management work, about 80 of them would be women. Not just because I like women, because I do, but the fact of the matter is, I think they're damn good. The example I have of it that I'll give you is I hired, when I was at the National Laboratory, I hired a world-class geologist as a project manager to sort of back me up in my role of PMO manager. And when I left, she moved into that role, and subsequently now is a world-famous project program manager that travels all over the world helping other women succeed in the work that they do. So the time has come. I think these kinds of forums are not to get people excited about the possibility of becoming one. It's to get them excited about the possibility of becoming a successful entrepreneur in terms of project management. So I can't endorse it any stronger. We obviously in the U.S. we've got a lot of women that now have moved into the workforce. More than 50% are women, and they're beginning to show, hey, we can do anything men can do, and as my wife would say, and probably do it better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lee. And it's really important that we have men as part of this discussion, because the more that we normalize these kind of discussions, we can't change things on our own as women. We need men to be supporting that. And we know that you're a super advocate for women in project management. So thanks for sharing. I'm interested, though, you mentioned the language differentiation between males and females sometimes. And I certainly know I was in a senior meeting one time showing concern for the well-being of some of my colleagues, and I was told that I was mothering them just because I was a female, rather than showing that compassion. And those are some of the challenges that we have as women. So thank you for being understanding.
I have just one quick thing. I've had a case where a woman made a very salient point in a meeting, and one of the men in the meeting said, "What's her problem?" So that's sort of the context that you get into.
Exactly. And it's not okay. And the more we talk about this, the more we can do something about it. So thank you so much. So that's our 4 panelists. We're going to invite you, and there's some questions coming through to the chat. So we'll go through some of those questions. But one of the other things that you mentioned, Lee, was multitasking, which is one of the questions which I would like Jen to invite you to answer. Is, as a woman, we do have to juggle many things every day. How do you ensure that we do more of what matters?
You know, that question, it kind of assumes that maybe we are doing things that don't matter, which I think is not correct, because everything that we're doing matters. And being just recently, we celebrated women in this month of May, Women's Day, Mother's Day, and one of the discussions that we had was the multiple roles that women play. We're team players, we're mothers. You know, we've got a family side and we have a work side, and as a result, we are juggling very many things. And all of them are important. All of them are important. It just depends on the perspective that you're looking at. You could be at work, and suddenly you have maybe a family member who falls sick, and you have to go and juggle that. And they're actually examples of a lot of women who are CEOs, and they're only about, in fact, according to Forbes, they're only about 2%, less than 3% of women who are sitting in C-suites in the Fortune 500 companies. But even them, and a very good example is Indra, who is a Pepsi Cola, I believe she's a CEO. And she said, for her, she considers, for instance, her husband to be just as important a team member as in her children, as the people that she's leading in the organization. So everybody who comes in with their needs, whether they just want to have a 5-minute phone call, whether they just need to hear your voice in one way or another from a family perspective, that is juggling an important aspect. When it comes to work, and we come in and we sit every day, I used to have, maybe I can just give my own personal example. I worked in a big organization, a Fortune 500, one of the, which had about 10,000 people in the campus. And it was very IT oriented, and we were in a very busy systems driven kind of environment. And my daughter kept on getting sick. And in the US, you cannot, it's very, especially in winter season, they're coming down with something or another, and you can't, take them into school. And so she needed to be home, and that's another problem because nanny care is not that, sometimes it's not an option. And I reached a point where I was working so hard, but I kept on having to leave. And I decided, you know what, let me just ask my sponsor to let me stay home for 30 days. And it was a big risk because that meant because I had to kind of demonstrate that I could still keep the work going. So how was I going to juggle those two? I'm trying to get my daughter's okay here, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm still present at the office. And she was very gracious because and she happened to be a woman leader as well. And she let me stay at home. And I had anticipated that I'd be home for about 3 weeks. And just by being home and not going out anywhere and just looking out for my daughter, she was okay in 1 week. But at the same time, when she was sleeping, I was working. When she was awake, I was working. I was trying to do the best I can. But I think in a sense, what I'm trying to say is that maybe as women leaders, we have more than maybe the men have. What they're juggling is probably more than what the men are juggling. Sometimes it's very easy for a male leader just to be in the office very late, but we have to go home, maybe do a couple of family errands and stuff, and we're still keeping an eye on the office. And then we also, because maybe of our nurturing side, we have people who call us and still tell us, hey, I'm not having a good day at work. Or not. So we are still mentoring and we're coaching people who we're working with. And so when we're trying to look at what matters, sometimes we would have to look at prioritization and see what in the scheme of things is really important. When we say that our family is the first thing and then work comes second and then everything else comes third, then maybe that's how we're going to be looking at the things that we are trying to prioritize. So when a phone call comes in the middle of work because family is important to you, you take that first. When if you're not in that family situation and you find that maybe your career is the one that's coming first, then maybe you will take a call or you'll juggle the items that are career oriented first. But a lot of the times it really is very much about maybe what is your responsibility in that? What is the impact, or what is going to be as a result of that particular decision that you're making? So I think there are a lot of things or a lot of dynamics that go into it. But I think at the end of the day, the woman leader is really somebody who can be able to kind of harmonize all those priorities and bring out the best in her. Yeah.
Absolutely, and there's some great comments coming through in the chat. People with that is resonating with. It's certainly resonating with me, and I can relate to those things. And I was thinking as you spoke, perhaps this is one of the opportunities that's going to come through some of the really devastating impacts of COVID and the pandemic, but that flexibility in working that, back when you were sharing your story was probably quite innovative. And I know I worked from home with 3 young kids, and had I not been able to have that flexibility, wouldn't have been able to manage. But it's much more common now, and we really need to emphasize that that's important for women. So thank you for that. We have some questions coming in the chat now, so I'd like to go over to Liz, where we have a comment saying that they're very impressed to know that your activities in the education sector. How did you generate the interest in youth for project management, since the focus is usually on learning hands-on skills, perhaps technical skills and not managerial? And that person is a teacher and they would like to know how they can apply project management practices in the classroom.
Thank you. It's great to hear from teachers. I actually spent my career professionally not working in education at all, although I did a lot of work with Apple and they have a very education focus. And one of the things I would say that we've done in my team, and we have process leaders for each of the key areas, is in secondary, which is otherwise known as high school in some countries. We focused on something called the Project Passport, and we used gamification to teach kids the basics of essentially PMBOK skills. But if you look at the PMI EF model, it uses other words, more layman's terms, but the concepts are still there. And so many kids today do project work. You would be surprised, even in primary school, they're starting kids on projects. But when I started working with the high school, which is where we were building this idea of the Project Passport, we realized that the teachers actually didn't understand project management either. So our first 3 meetings were in inventing a way that worked in that school with the teachers, and the instructors, the educators are so important to this process. And then once we fine-tuned it for that school, they had even a special model they had to follow because of their certifications. We use that with the students, and again, used gamification, made it interactive, lots of standing up and doing things and getting them to present. And that really engaged them because everyone wants to be a star. And we made them stars. And we also made it fun along the way with little extra things we did. So happy to share that with you. If you're an educator, please go ahead and contact me. I think the details of my email address are there. So be happy to hear from you and take any other questions.
Thank you so much, Liz. We have a question now from Phyllis, which I'd like to pass over to you, Diana, to answer. Where is the place of emotions in leadership?
Well, in fact, when women, I want to start with a small story, because when I started in my career, I had the opportunity to work with a manager that was women, right? And well, in fact, she was like my mentor, right? And something that I learned from her is that she gave me some instructions, because she gave me some instructions in order to maybe to work much better, and also in the future, little by little, to start being in charge of more projects, right? So something that she told me were like instructions of how I have to behave, right? For example, I was working in the energy industry, and in the energy industry, the majority of workers are men, right? So she told me, right, you have to stay serious, you have to be like to be a little bit aggressive, right? So that was like a mask that they have to develop, right? So when I was working on that, I felt like when I start working, I need to have like being an actress and to represent one role. And little by little, I was, obviously, she gave me that information not because she was she wanted something bad for me, right? At the contrary, she wanted to give me advice in order to start growing my career, right? But she gave me that advice because also she had harder times in the past that gave her that information, and those instructions were for her. Little by little, I was analyzing, because it's like maybe an analogy when we are not in pandemic, we just walk around on the streets without taking care of anything, right? But now we have to think about our mask, that we have 2 meters distance with other people. We have a lot of things in mind just while we are walking, right? And the same thing happens in women. We have to think about, well, about our behavior, if maybe we are showing some kind of or maybe we are not showing all our strengths, or maybe we are showing that we are not appropriate for that role, right? So we have a lot of things in mind. So little by little, I was analyzing that maybe many of those instructions were not necessary, right? Obviously, we are in other times. She was in other times when she received also those instructions, but it's like to receive that instructions that emotions are out of the role, right? You have to show just that you are serious, that you are similar like men. You have to focus on that. And when you start interchanging information with other men, they don't care about that, right? They don't care that they need to have like a mask. They don't need to be an actor during when they represent their roles, when they are in their roles, right? So little by little, I was analyzing that I was losing basically those strengths, right? The strengths that have women, that is basically to have more maybe those soft skills that let other people get involved, pay attention to some maybe attitudes, or pay attention to some maybe problems that I can find, or in general we can find in team, right? So I start taking advantage of that. Obviously, I appreciate all the instructions that I received from my mentor. That was one of my first posts in the past, but now I think that also it's necessary to balance that with all the strengths that women have in order to make a team that works, not only to follow instructions, to have a sense of control, right? Also that they could feel good, right? How you can motivate, also how they can have a good environment in order to take advantage of the abilities of all the members of the team, right? So I think that it's necessary also to reevaluate that maybe some instructions or some recommendations that we hear in the past, or that we hear from people that appreciate us, maybe some of them are just to act because they have a leadership role with a main model, not with the strengths of a women.
Yeah, I really like that we can, be ourselves, and things are changing very quickly at the moment, and the more that we can share those stories of success and encourage people to be themselves, the more it can motivate others. So that's really important. Thank you for sharing. It leads nicely on to I'm trying to go in order, but I'm going to come back to you with the next question there, because I want to go to Jean first to answer this question, please, from Irma. You need to shift, or she has a comment, you need to shift the mindset that women have to be pushy and speak and act like men to get accepted at the table, and her opinions to be valued. So Jean, where would we start?
Oh, where do we start to shift our opinion, to shift the opinion? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I even wanted to add on to something that Diana, because I agree with what Diana said about emotions in leadership. I mean, in the workplace, and as you as a leader, because I think that it is important that we bring our authentic self to the table as women. And that's the first place to start. For me, as far as, how do we start getting the shift so that people stop looking at us as pushy? In fact, like for me, I know I've been described very many times as maybe, she's a bit strict. And that's because I'm results oriented. And, sometimes I can be described as, oh, she's a bit bossy, but that's because I'm passionate about, the kind of work that I'm doing. And so I think that if we bring our authentic self and we come in and we say, look, we know what we're supposed to do, and we know how we can build the teams together. We know what needs to be done. Let's just get it done. In fact, for me, I think that saying by the sports company that says, just get it done is really what we need to bring, to take to the office, or to bring to our workplaces. And I think that even if we can dwell not so much on the gaps that are in the office, especially in terms of gender diversity, then those gaps are going to disappear. If we come in trying to kind of enhance some of those differences or some of those variances, then the variances become better. I think what we can bring to the table is for us to come in with our best selves. And that's why I say we can be true to ourselves, and we bring in our A game to the table. Then all those variances and the differences, they're not going to be important anymore. People are not going to be focusing so much on us as women leaders. They'll be focusing on us as workers, you see, and they're going to focus on us as leaders who are able to bring in something specific to the table. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of the times, and it's true probably, that they say women tend to discount themselves a lot, right? So if we go to a meeting place, you don't go to the head of the table, or you don't come to the front of the table. You'd like to kind of sit back. And when it comes to even describing, the successes of the teams, we're very cautious about saying I and would rather say we, and we're making it all a team kind of effort. And it is a team effort as far as we're concerned. But I think in order for us also to move away from that, to start getting into that position of we're just like everybody else, let's just, we just need to say it as it is. And that goes back to courage. It goes back to being bold. And it goes back to sometimes saying things that are uncomfortable. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. Sometimes those are the things that kind of put, remove the elephant in the room and make that conversation possible. The other thing is that you have to just speak out and just say what it is. Sometimes when there are differences or when there's that, when we're trying to create, hey, can we break this practice and get to a better place? Maybe then you just have to call it out. And I've done that before where somebody maybe says something to you as a female that is not very comfortable, and you just say, you know what, I wasn't comfortable about that comment, and it would be better if we can go forward this way. You will find that will stop right there. So calling it out is also not bad. It's the way that we do it. It's the way that we call it out. And I realize that actually trying to be a little bit more kind in your words when you think about people. So to everything, add people, and then you will find that you're going to tone it down. Instead of being angry, you add people, then you will find that actually you're going to be a little bit moderate. So for me, I would say that if we do those few things, and I think that we can create that shift that is needed to get us to a different level.
Yeah, excellent. And question, Sharon. Well, I don't know. It was just really, really interesting, and we're nodding. So we're going to go with that because everything you were saying again resonates, and again, more comments coming through the chat. And I was thinking again as you speak, it's so good to have people from so many different countries in this call, and we're all nodding and we're all experiencing the same things. And, that's the benefit of this shared experience. So, over to you now, Lee. There's a question saying, how do we help women to take up more leadership roles, i.e. project director roles?
Well, I think it comes with accomplishment. I don't believe in the quota system. I don't believe in numbers for numbers' sake. I believe in people advancing through the chairs based on their performance. Now, one of the things that I want to comment on that was just said is that I think there's a danger. I mean, I understand what Jean's saying, be who you are. But what I've learned over the years, and my daughter's an attorney who went through this, I'm going to be who I am. And my counsel to her is you don't get to be who you are. You have to be who you need to be successful. And I think that that's an important issue. And I think sometimes women have a hard time making that adjustment. It's what I call playing the game. And I know people say, well, we don't want to play games. Well, you can be successful or you can't be successful. But in the men's world, you got to play the game. And so I think as people begin to move into this environment, I think women need to be assertive. They need to recognize what they're capable of and then communicate that to people. Demand the opportunities to demonstrate what your capabilities are. Nobody's going to give you anything. I learned that a long time ago. You've got to take it. You've got to earn it. And I think that the best thing women can do today is capture that ability to say, this is what I'm capable of doing. You need to give me a chance to do it. And once you get that chance, the majority of people perform at a very high level. And as you look at these people moving into the CEOs and the presidents of organizations, if you look back at their track record, you'll see nobody gave them that job. They earned that job, and they're in that job because they demonstrated performance. You're not going to get any kudos for being there. And another thing that we talked about a little while ago that I think is important to note, that in the U.S. at least, we see a high number of men now becoming the take care of the family at home while the wife goes out and does what she enjoys doing in terms of the workplace. So I think men are beginning to realize, hey, men can do the women's job, women can do the men's job, and whoever does it best is the one that should be doing it.
Yeah, I think you're quite right about appointing people because of their achievements. I'm really interested to open up to the female panelists though about having to fit into this men's world, because the more we have discussions like these, maybe it's not going to be a men's world for too much longer. But Liz, I'll invite you to comment. Go ahead.
Thanks. So much of what's been said already is fantastic, but one of the things I feel like I want to bring up is what I consider to be the elephant in the room. Google myths about women and work, and you will get an earful of things that are just not true, but have been perpetrated. So women think it's true, and certainly men think it's true. We're not good negotiators. That's what I've done for a living for the last 40 years. I've negotiated. Women are not good at stress. Hello, we're the ones that have the kids. You know how stressful that is? It's a walk in the park to do some of the stuff that men do every day, but men have perpetrated that we're not good, they're great. And I'm not dissing men. I'm married to one, great guy. I happen to have made my entire career twice the amount he's made in terms of income. So women aren't just equal to men. We can be better. And I like that point that Lee made about that. You got to be good at what you're good at. And he wasn't a house person. He was also an executive working someplace. So one of the things about it is what Diane said about make sure your voice is heard. I think that's so important. And if I could add one thing, when you're going in, recognize two things. One, be emotional if that's who you are and if that's appropriate for the setting, but always lead with facts. One of the things that Lee mentioned about women earning it, as I mentioned, I worked at IBM for 15 years and led diversity at IBM Netherlands for 4 of those years, and along with my executive selling job, by the way. And one of the things that we found looking at data only, blinded to names, was that women were outperforming men in total and performance ranking, had higher customer satisfaction because we were mostly client-facing roles, consultants, and still made 15 to 20% less and received far fewer promotions. So a practical thing women can do is lead with data, still be who you are. This is the next one. Recognize that some of the stuff that the guys have been doing for years is just in another form bullying. Do not accept it. It is not okay. Never was, still isn't, don't accept it. And look for mentors. The last thing I would say about this is also when you have data about your performance, bring that to the table too. So be data driven, and I think you'll get heard more. And don't accept the bullying. Thank you for letting me chime in, Lee.
Very timely here in New Zealand, although it's 3 o'clock in the morning now on Saturday. Friday, which it is for most of you in the world, was anti-bullying at work day here in New Zealand. And I had some great meetings, and one of them was this very masculine looking project manager with a beard, and he had a lovely pink bow in his head, and you had to wear pink to celebrate this anti-bullying day. But it was really well received here, and you're right, we need to all stand up for that, and it's not always easy. So the other thing I would just add to is, as women, we need to support each other and not necessarily compete. Sometimes that's something we could do better. Diana, anything you want to add to the topic of being your authentic self, or?
Yeah, I was, according to the question related with the workforce, here in Peru, in one company that I was working, they established champions in different, well, race champion, but also when a women just arrived to the, as manager of the human resource area, she also established a bias champion, and the bias champion was great because remember when I was calling for team members, I made a job description, and that person made me check all the information that I put on the template in order to call for team members and to to open a hiring process, and that person told me that the characteristics and all the needs that I was putting on that job description, and I realized at that moment that I was making a description just for a profile, basically a men profile, right? Because need to have some characteristics, and I realized that, because I just was writing a model, and that person told me something very important. When you wrote the description, the job description, in what are you thinking? What model do you have in your mind? What comes to your mind when you make the job description? And I realized that I was thinking in a man that is going to apply for that position. So sometimes these kind of champions that are going to lead those changes on the hiring process are very important, because they analyze in different parts, not only in the hiring process itself, if we are taking into account all the necessary characteristics, and we are objective with the characteristics that we need, but also in the job description, right at the beginning, because sometimes we are not conscious of that, because we have those characteristics and those beliefs they are very internal into us, so we don't consider them sometimes.
Excellent, thank you. Jean, another question I'd invite you to answer. How do we empower women to be celebrated more publicly?
Wow, celebrated more publicly. That's a good question, because I think it starts with ourselves. In fact, there was a research that came out that showed that a lot of the times the accomplishments for women are not typically published. I mean, you know, things that we do, maybe they don't make the top news. Things that we do don't make the report, you know. And so once it needs to start with ourselves. And the beauty about being in a project environment is that it's very factual. You know, it is either done or it is not done, or this is what has created the interference. So it is very, in trying to present a lot of the material, or when we're talking about projects, it is very clear, it becomes very clear, it becomes very easy and very clear without any kind of emotion, no kind of objectivity about what is happening. And you can be able to, you can talk about, hey, this is as a result of the things that we have put in this and this and this. And so I think if we try to be as objective as possible and get and tend to look more on the, you know, not so much on the subjective side, that I feel, I believe, you know, those are sometimes those kind of words are the ones that make everybody feel that, you know, have the perception that we're talking out of emotions. But I think if we can also have more direct ways of talking, like I recommend, I suggest, I see, you know, you put those type of use those tactics when you're describing, and people are going to begin to see the performance side and begin to see us as achievers, and then that way that is going to be able to now elevate what women are, you know, what we as women leaders are doing in the workplace, and we can be able to talk more about it. The second thing is that there is no harm in us just tooting our own horn, so to speak. A lot of the times, like I said before, we tend to discount ourselves. But let me tell you, there's nothing wrong in saying, hey, this team, as a result of this is why we're doing well, and call out the names of the women who have already done it, including yourself. Most of the times we don't do that. You know, we are so modest and we just want to look. And the more modest that we are, nobody is going to come up and say, hey, you did it. So it would be good if you can also just be a cheerleader for yourself as much as you're a cheerleader for your team. Okay. And so even, and a lot of the times in my projects, as an example, I make celebrations a milestone. And it is purposeful. It is going to be there, and I ask for a budget for it. And so that is the time when actually we can really be loud champions and cheerleaders for women who are doing well in the workplace. And not just women, but also other team members. Because a lot of the times when you're a project manager, you're not going in to lead as a woman. You're not going there to lead as a man. You're just going there to lead as a leader. And so when you're going in to to talk about who's doing well and everything. You will celebrate the men as much, the male leaders as much as you're celebrating the women leaders. And I wanted to speak, I just wanted to comment one thing, and I hope that it's going to be in addition to that. When we're talking about being authentic self and playing the game, you know, I think Lee said, it's not so much be who we are, but who you need to be. I think if you are who you are, your authentic self, then you are already in that place of who you need to be. You're going to already play whatever that game needs to be. Because I think, because if you ask yourself, what is this corporate game? What is this rule of the game? It is actually just doing the best, being the best that you can be. Yeah. If you're a good speaker, speak out. You know, that is, if that is your passion, then, you know, say the things that need to be said. You know, so I think that a lot of these things, when we bring them all together, at the end of the day, we're adding great value and we're being the best that we can be. And that's the only thing that we can do at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I really like the leading and celebrating success for all members of the team, because that adds weight to equality. It's not
Yes.
just celebrating for it. If we're modeling that we're celebrating all success as leaders, then that's really empowering. And that leads perfectly to the next question, which, thank you. How can corporates include gender equality at workplace and include more women in the workforce? So I'd like to hand that over to you, Liz.
Yeah,
Time just released.
right.
Sorry, I thought you said Liz.
Go ahead.
Oh, I did say Liz. Sorry. It's the
that's
New
okay.
Zealand accent. Back to you in a minute, Lee.
Time just put out there equity, meaning equality for all, documentation, and they had two really important facts that I wanted to share. McKinsey and Oxford University ran a study, and it said, if companies include diversity for gender, they are 25% more productive. That is a fact. If they include ethnic diversity, they are 36% more productive. And by productive, I mean return on investment. So the myth that somehow companies are doing us a favor, not true. Don't believe it. So how can they incorporate more? One of the things I did at IBM in the diversity thing I was talking about earlier was we did upward and downward coaching. I believe in the value of co-mentoring. And so this gave people who were undervalued at the organization a chance to meet executives and talk with them about what their goals are, what their ambitions are, and also executives to talk about what's important to them so that we all knew what was true there. And I have to say, it was a little condescending on the executive side, but the point is, more people who were being overlooked got promoted within that next 5-year period because of this 1-year program. So be a mentor. If you're a woman, put that kind of idea forward. If co-mentoring helps in your organization, that's a great way to do it. Bring the data forward to your organization. If you can find a woman or a man who is putting equality forward as part of their job or their personal passion, find that person to be the voice if you can't for some reason, and bring that data. One of the things also we talked about, I think Sharon, you mentioned it, about women being the helpers to create gender diversity in corporations. Women do that about 50% of the time, and men do that about 40% from the same sources I just mentioned. We have that data. And so women are only doing half the job, and you know, we need to do better. Men need to do better too. Companies are just made up of people who make choices every day. So let's make better choices.
Perfect. And Lee, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just one quick thing. I'm not anti-quota. In fact, I think the quota concept is really opening the door of opportunity for women. If somehow I have to be hired because I'm a woman, then the onus is on me to perform up to the level of expectation. So I think in a way, even though I'm anti-quota from just a filling standpoint, it does present an opportunity for the women to really demonstrate what they can do. And in all of my years, I've probably only seen 2 or 3 women fall short of expectations when they've been given an opportunity. To me, it's just like the PMP. You have it, it opens the door of opportunity, but if you can't manage projects, you won't stay there very long.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And we're just about out of time, so I'm going to invite our panelists. You have 1 minute and 1 minute only for a takeaway. So over to you, Diana.
Well, I just want to close with many women are also here as participants and also from different countries. So I think that we have to consider also mentoring, right? If we already are in a leadership position, also to involve other women that are starting in their careers in order to guide them, right? Because sometimes we analyze in a macro view, but also we have to analyze what we are doing, right? So invite to develop mentoring programs. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Jean?
Hey Sharon, it's so unfortunate that we ran out of time because this was such a good. We were just getting to the good parts.
I know.
I think for me, I've been in projects now for more than 23 years, and as a PMP for 16 years. And what I've seen is that the most important thing every day when you're running projects as a woman leader is actually to be your true you. And that's why I keep saying that being the authentic you, bringing your authentic you to the table is good, because if you try to be politically correct because you're trying to to kind of tone down a rhetoric, you'll find that rhetoric will continue. But if you decide that you're going to speak it out and say, actually, this is not the correct thing to do, and it needs courage. And let me tell you, sometimes courage can be vocal and sometimes it means silence. But it cannot mean silence when something is not going correctly. Silence in courage is when somebody attacks you and you decide that you're not going to say anything, but you're going to just give grace. But when you're moving things forward, you need to be able to speak up. And so that courage and the boldness, you need to have that character where you need to be the person who tells the emperor that they're not wearing any clothes. That's actually the kind of courage that we're looking for. And because it is not aggressive and it is not something that is meant to be disruptful, it is just honest. It's just being candid. The other thing that I would like to say is in terms of integrity, that at the end of the day and as project leaders, people will judge us on what we've done at work. I was in a situation where a supervisor came and he was, we had worked with him for some time, and then suddenly he became a little bit unfriendly. And he took back to my supervisor that and he tried to discredit a lot of the work that I was doing. And this same lady who had given me time off, she told me, Jean, I know the way you work. So the information that I'm getting here in this report cannot be you. Okay, so be known. And that was what saved me. That is what saved me from leaving. So what I'd like to say is that be known by the quality of your work, so that when somebody discounts your character, they won't be able to because of the quality. You'll be remembered for what you do, and that is what is going to save you at the end of the day. And the last thing is that just think about people and about mentoring. For us, what we do is that we model a lot. A lot of people are looking at what we're doing. You be the role model, and then be willing to help, be willing to share information. That's the only way that we can be able to grow our group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you're right that we're only just we could talk all day. It's been such a good conversation. But I'm going to move really quickly on to Lee.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. Mine's really quick. I think two things that are important is that women need to have a clear understanding of their objectives. What do they want to get out of their career? Okay. Secondly, then they have to do a thorough self-assessment of their strengths and weaknesses and apply those in a way that drives them towards their objectives.
Oh, that was quick. Excellent summary. Thank you, Lee. And I'll hand over to you, Liz, for the last word from our panelists today.
Such good information and a great panel. One of the comments I saw mentions passion, and I just wanted to address that in my last 30 seconds, which is nobody ever said Steve Jobs is emotional. They said he's passionate. They said he's innovative. They said he is an amazing, amazing spokesman for his company. Yeah. So it's a brand, right? And we have to be the brand we want to see. And brand is kind of what's been talked about here. Your personal brand is really important. And do not accept that emotions don't belong at work, because nobody thought Steve Jobs or the guy who runs Oracle, Gary Ellison, were losers because they were emotional. They are very emotional. They were very emotional people and still are. So emotion belongs in the workplace as long as it's channeled correctly.
Thank you. Great note to finish on. And I just really want to say thank you so much to our panelists and also to the attendees for great questions. It's been a very inspiring discussion, and I'll hand over to you now, Priya, to wrap up the session. Thank you so much, everyone.
So thank you, Sharon. That was a wonderful discussion. Yes, we could have discussed forever. And, we might end up at 2 a.m. India time discussing this topic, and very good nuggets of wisdom. And I would like to hand over to Brishank now. Brishank, are you there? For a quick wrap up of what we discussed. Yes.
Thank you very much, all the panelists, for a great discussion points, and it was really great to listen to all of you. Just my takeaways for the day, a couple of things. Biggest challenge is to break through the biases and bring your voice on the table. That was very assertive, very helpful. Second, need to analyze metrics, not only salaries, but also why there are very few percentage of women as compared to men in senior management roles. Third, women bring a great mindset to handling project situations and are great in handling complex situations as well. Another one, women leaders have to juggle for more than what men have to. The key for women leaders to succeed is prioritization, balancing priorities one at a time. I think thank you all panelists for sparing your time and sharing your views and experiences with the team over here. We also thank all participants for their active participation. The chat window was on fire today. Please share your feedback by scanning the QR code or through the link. It will be on the screen very shortly. Please share the topics you would like to hear as a part of your feedback going forward. I would like to thank Sachin and Sunil for their help as WebEx admins in making this event smooth as ever. And also Damike, thank you very much for the wonderful flyers. Today's event video is there on the screen. Please take time and claim your PDUs at your earliest opportunity. We look forward to your continued participation, and we hope to see you at the June program, that is next month. Have a great day, and goodbye from my side. Yeah, you want to close?
Yes, sure. And you do have a good day. Stay safe, stay blessed, and see you again in June with another exciting topic from PMI Chapter Exchange. Thank you very much for joining in, and see you again. Bye.